Hi and welcome back to another art channel video. Today I'm going to play in the smallest size. This is the handy size from the Art by Marlene latest collection. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, make sure to check it out, since you will see all the products and even more than the ones that I'm working with today. So I'm starting by adding a few more pages on my journal. I'm going to add some of the black ones as well as some of the Kraft ones, just to make my art journal more interesting so that I can challenge myself every time with something different and I don't get bored. Another thing that you can definitely do is to use pattern paper. I'm using the Bold and Bright collection, and you can cut out pages to fit in this journal out of them. You will end up with instant background pages, which are perfect for those days when you want to craft but you don't have a bunch of time to wait for paste or for paints to dry. And of course, with the leftovers, the smaller pieces, you can even make a smaller journal. So here I have cut out a bunch of pages. I'm going to add some holes and just put them inside my art journal. So now in my new journal I do have white watercolor paper, I do have black cardstock, Kraft paper, as well as already made backgrounds. Of course, since this is a ring binded system, you can easily switch places of your papers. And for today I decided to share 4 projects, each of them in the different type of paper. So you see here I'm just grabbing one of each. This is going to be a big video, so go grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, whatever you like, and let's start with the first page. For my first project I'm working on the white watercolor paper and I will start with a stencil. This is again from the latest collection and it's called Pacman. And just like always, everything you see me use, you will find it linked down below in the description area. I'm using here some white modeling paste. I am applying it over my stencil in different areas with a spatula. You can go with modeling paste, you can go with gesso if you like, whatever works here, just adding some texture and interest on the background. And now it's time to add some color on this background. You can go with your acrylic paints, your watercolors, whatever you have. I'm going with my dilution sprays just because I want this to be nice and vibrant. The colors I used here are Lemon Zest and Bubblegum Pink. I am going to use my heat gun to make sure that this is completely dry, and you can see here how warped that paper is. Don't worry, this is watercolor paper and it takes water nicely. There is no issue, it is going to dry completely flat. At this stage I'm going to add some water splashes. I'm going to dab them with a cloth, and this is going to lift some color and create a ghosting effect, a lovely interesting look on a background. The next step is stamping. I'm going to use this text stamp, one of my favorite ways to go on a background, and I'm going to use similar colors to the colors that I already have on my background, just slightly darker. And I'm working with archival inks here since they are permanent, and I just got a few new colors from the latest release by Tim Holtz. Now from this stamp set I'm going with the border. I will use the border that has all those squares, and I'm going to stamp that with black archival ink in different areas of my border. I made sure that I didn't go all the way around, I left some space empty just to make it look more interesting. One of the most common questions on my art journals is if I have everything planned from the beginning. And of course the answer is no, I don't have a plan from the beginning. Here I'm just playing around and see how it goes. So this is where I decided that since I do have black on the border, it would be nice to have some black stamping on the actual background as well. So here I go again with the text stamp, but this time with black. Now for my focal point I decided to play with those gorgeous flowers. I'm going to use the large one and the mid one. I'm going to stamp them with black archival ink on watercolor paper, and I'm doing so because I want to make sure that this black line is going to be permanent. If you notice, I'm actually stamping on one of the white pages from the art journal. This way I will end up having the exact same look and feel as my background. But you can definitely work on another type of page if you like. By the way, I'm working on the textured side of the watercolor paper, so I need to repeat the stamping to get a good impression. Now you can use your favorite coloring medium to go ahead and add some color on your flowers. I decided to go with my Nuvo pens. These are actually watercolor markers. You can definitely go with watercolors. Notice how the black line doesn't smudge or smear. That's just because I used black archival ink, which is permanent. I decided to go with blues for this flower just because I have warm colors on my background, and this way they are going to stand out. To reflect that square design that I have as a border, I'm going to add some squares on some parts of the flower. And as I always say, having the same details on different parts of your page will help all your elements come together nicely at the end. And I'm going to use my scissors and fuzzy cut around them. It's really easy to cut them out. They do have very bold black lines, so just follow the line and you are good to go. Now I need some stems for my flowers. I'm just using my scissors to cut out a couple of strips. This again is watercolor paper, and I'm going to stick everything down. I'm using the Art by Marlene Stick It glue. Works perfectly. It has a very fine tip and you can easily control it. Always remember, you don't need to add too much glue. Trust me, those die cuts don't want to escape my art journal. Adding a little bit of glue at the center is just enough, plus it gives you some dimension since the tips of those petals are kind of lifted. I did use my black marker and added some lines there to reflect the same design on the petals. And I want to add some leaves, so I grabbed this die set that gives you leaves and flowers. I'm going to go with the biggest one. This is going to give you a lovely design. It really looks like lace. However, I'm just going to use my scissors and cut out only the leaves. Don't be afraid to make the dies work for your specific project. So here again, I'm just using my Stick It glue and I'm going to stick them down. And here is the reminder, if you do enjoy my videos, don't forget to click the like button. It's the easiest way to support the channel and to let me know that you like my videos and you want to see more. So some of my go-to techniques now, I'm using my white gel pen and adding some highlights on the cutout images. I'm also going to grab a black marker and outline the leaves. This is not something that you have to do. I just like to add little details and sometimes I don't know when to stop. I will also use this gel pen to color in the border. I will color white every other little square. Yes, I did took the time to do that. For the center of my flowers, I decided to go with Nuvo drops to add white dots there. This way I'm adding color and at the same time I do add dimension. Again, I don't know when to stop here, so I'm adding way too many dots. But as long as you have fun, don't worry about overdoing it. Just have fun and play with your mediums. Here I'm adding some white splashes. This is white acrylic paint in a spray form. And not being able to stop with the finishing touches, here I am again with a black marker. This time I'm coloring every other little square on the stems. And now let's find an appropriate quote. I'm grabbing the Sticky Quotes little booklet. It comes with elements as well as lots of sayings. And I decided to go with a sticker that says keep it simple but significant. I'm going to cut it in half, stick it in place. And just like I always do, I will outline it with my black marker. And again here I just didn't want to stop playing, so I grabbed those gems. This is from a previous collection by Art by Marlene. Lots of colors and I love that they are nice big sizes of gems. I'm going to stick a couple of them at the center of my flowers. And my first little project is finished. For the second page I'm working on the Kraft paper. This time I'm adding some white acrylic paint and with a very big brush I'm going to apply it all over the place. I'm not going to cover up completely the background. I still want to see that lovely Kraft color there. I'm not using any water at all since I want to see those brush strokes. And now let's do some stamping. This time I'm working with embossing ink and I'm going to stamp up there at the top over the Kraft part of the paper, and then I'm going to apply white embossing powder. I will heat set it and I absolutely love the effect of white letters over the Kraft paper. And now let's have some fun with stencils. This is another new stencil from the latest collection, full of flowers. I'm going with blues for those flowers, and I'm working with acrylic paint. This is acrylic paint by Art By Marlene. The first color that I'm using here is Mermaid, and I'm applying it with one of those dabbers. This makes my life really easy. You can do it with a sponge, a cosmetic sponge, or of course you can apply it with your brush. Now I don't like to have flat color anywhere, that's why I'm bringing in another shade of blue, darker this time. This is Azure, and I'm going with that at the center of the flowers. Let's lift the stencil, and I absolutely love this color combination of bright blues over white and Kraft, but you can definitely use the stencil for a super colorful background. Now here I'm using my white gel pen and I'm going over the petals, outlining them with very loose lines. Notice how I'm trying not to be perfect. I'm not following the petal exactly. I will repeat that for all the petals. And now from the sticker booklet, I'm going to bring my focal points, which are going to be the butterflies. Now this is where I'm thinking that I don't mind if I have that white border all around. After all, I do have white at the background and it matches lovely. Then I'm going to bring in one more butterfly sticker, and you will see that although I press quite hard, just because I have acrylic paint underneath, it is really forgiving and I will be able to change them later on when I will change my mind. So here I'm just going over them with a white gel pen. At this stage I'm thinking maybe I don't like that white border, but I go on and add some white dots at the center of my flowers. Also repeating that dot pattern on the top right corner where you can still see that Kraft paper. And this is me changing my mind, so I'm just going to lift the butterfly and I will use my scissors to go all around it and remove that white border. Don't be afraid to change your mind, there is always a way to fix things if there is something that you don't like. It happens to me all the time. I just usually video edit any parts like that because they make the video longer and it doesn't add to the process. However, I know that you like to see that these things happen to all of us. I place the butterfly back in the page, and now with the other butterfly I'm even going to change my mind on which butterfly I'm going to use. So back to the booklet, I'm going to pick up another one, the smaller one, and for the smaller butterfly again I will cut out the white border and stick it down. Now finally I'm happy with how that looks. I'm going to bring in my black marker and I will outline the butterflies to help them stand against the background. Now this is where I was debating with myself whether I want to make this video in two parts. So sharing the 2 pages today and 2 pages on another video. However, I know that this is a new collection and you want to see many of the products in action before you buy. And I know that you have to buy quickly before they sell out. So I'm trying to share as many inspiration as I can on this video, sharing actually 4 pages and putting as many of the new products as I can into use. Back to the booklet to find some quotes to use, and I decided to go with making mistakes is better than faking perfection, and this is perfect for this page since I had to change my mind so many times with the butterflies. I will outline it with my white gel pen and I'm going to call this page done. You will be able to see close-up photos of all the pages at the end of the video. And now let's work on the black page. Again, I'm starting with a stencil and I absolutely love this gorgeous design. I'm going to secure it at the back with some tape so that it doesn't move on me, and I will do some ink blending. I'm using Distress Oxide inks since I know that oxides go lovely on top of black cardstock. The colors that I decided to go with for my background is Peacock Feathers and Salty Ocean. So I'm starting by inking up some areas with the blue one and then I will go with the Peacock Feathers. However, on top of the black cardstock they turned out to be very similar in color, and this will be very obvious when I will lift the stencil later on. For now I'm going to do a lovely technique. This is where I'm using a baby wipe. This is very wet. I'm going to wet the stamp and I will go over the stencil on the areas where I have inked. This is going to lift some color and it's going to give a lovely effect where you will be able to see that text only where those inked areas are through the stencil. And of course you can lift the stencil and do the same thing. After all, this is water and it's not going to do anything on the black areas in between. Now I'm going to make sure that the ink and any wet areas are completely dry before I move on to the next step. However, at this stage I'm not happy with how that stenciling turned out. I don't like that those two colors that I used ended up so similar. Through the camera you can't even tell a difference. It seems super flat and as if I used just one color. But I don't want to throw it away. I usually just keep on working on a background until I'm happy with the background. So here I'm using my white gel pen, adding highlights on all of these designs, and I'm also going to use the gel pen to add little dots in between on the black areas. I'm not going to do any white splashes here since I don't want them to fall on top of the design. I just want them to be in between. Now I left the background on the side for now and I will look for a focal point, and I'm looking through the Golden Oldie booklet. This is packed with die cuts. You will find more than 1000 die cuts here to play with. I decided to go with a seahorse and I did also pick up some extra bits and pieces to dress up my page. My camera stopped cooperating here for some reason and I missed a couple of steps, but I'm going to talk you through them. Really easy to do. So notice that my background doesn't look so flat. All I did was to lay the stencil back in place and I did some extra blending with yellow this time. So it looks a little bit different now and I was happy with the outcome. I also used that text stamp with pigment white ink and I did stamp in a few areas. And now I'm just using my glue and putting my little scene together. Everything that you see me use here come from the same booklet. All these are die cuts from the Golden Oldie booklet. I absolutely love how when you start from a different colored page, you end up with a completely different look and feel on a project. So here I'm just going over the die cuts to add some sketchy lines with my black pen. And then, as I always do, I grabbed my white gel pen and I'm adding some highlights on all the die cuts. For this page I decided to go with "Open your mind, it's beautiful inside" as my quote. I did cut the quote in half. I'm going to stick it in place, outline it with my black marker, and I'm going to place it back in the book. You will see close-up photos of this page as well at the end of the video. And finally, let's work on the pattern paper page. This is what you do when you want to craft but you don't have too much time. So I do have a background ready to go for me. And all I need to do is to enhance that background a little bit. So that's why I grabbed my text stamp again and I'm going to do some stamping. I decided to go with black ink for that since I do have some black details at the background and it matches perfectly. Although the background is pretty much ready, I do want to add my very own style on it, and I always like to add white splashes. That's what I'm doing here. And again, this is white acrylic paint in a form of a spray. And then all we have to do is to find a focal point for our page. For this one I wanted to go with a girl, so I'm going through the faces here. I decided to go with this one down there. I'm going to pick her up. I like how she matches with the background because she has similar color on her hair. But I'm going to also pick up a few more elements so that I can dress her up. For example, I did pick up a little heart. I did pick up the flower that matches the color of the background as well. And now of course it's just a matter of putting everything together. There is a little border all around. It isn't bright white, so it doesn't look like a sticker. If you don't mind, you can leave it as is. I decided to just cut them out. I didn't do it in the previous page if you noticed. It really depends what I do with those outlines. Sometimes I leave them, sometimes I don't. I did add the flower coming from the top, and I'm going to dress it up with a couple of leaves that I have popped out. This glue does grab quite quickly, however it gives you a few seconds so that you can move around your elements and reposition them. On the outline of the girl there was a little saying that you can definitely leave the outline if you don't mind. I decided that since I don't have an outline on the flower and the leaves, I don't need that on my girl either. So I'm just chopping it off, and now I'm going to give that border at the bottom of the girl so that I can lift her a little bit more and she doesn't look so chopped off at the bottom. I'm going to give her a little heart. I will place her at the bottom of the page, and I love when the pages come together so easily. When you do have your background and you do have your cutouts, all you need to do is to play with collage. Really fun and simple. And really there are so many elements that you can play with on the booklet that you can keep on adding elements on your page non-stop. So I added a little flower on her hair, a dot that matches the color of the flower and the background on one side, and I'm just outlining the girl. This is going to help her stand out a little bit more, and it's going to look as if I did actually sketch her on the page. And you all know what's coming next. I'm going to grab my white gel pen, add some highlights on all the cutouts. And for my quote this time I'm going with the ribbons. I decided to go with the one that says "Let it be." I always like to cut out the part of the ribbon that I want to use. I will peel it off, stick it in place, and then I do have this pointy bone folder. You can definitely use the back of your brush. I'm rubbing my bone folder over the letters and I'm slowly lifting and rubbing as I go. So I'm going to try now if I can write on top of that, and you see it writes beautifully, plus I can completely erase it with my finger since this is a non-porous surface. And I'm going to add some highlights back on. And the fourth and last page for today is ready. Let's put it back in the art journal. And if you are still with me after 20 minutes of art journaling, thank you so much. Here are some close-up photos on the 4 pages that I made for today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired. Just like always, links to everything I used are down below in the description area. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.